Creepies and crawlies, goblins and ghoulies. You are now tuned in to the Disney Holic Show.
Hello and welcome to the Disney Holic Show. That's Mike TV.
And that's Jen Diz.
Today we're diving into Halloween's past, sharing some of our newest traditions along the way. Then we're kicking off our Patreon takeover with a spine-tingling topic. All right, I know it's November. It is November. October's over. I am not ready to wrap up Halloween. So I just had so many fun experiences this year and so much Disney infiltrated into that I just couldn't go any longer without sharing some of it. So
This is
today
the
we're going to have a little
Halloween
bit of
that
a
never
Halloween wrap
ends.
up. Yeah, right? I mean honestly um so yeah, so this Halloween was one of my favorite Halloweens I've had in a very long time, other than the ones we've had in Disney parks, because you can't
Ooh,
really beat those. But
yeah.
like from being at home is definitely a highlight for me. But you have now witnessed your very first Halloween while living in Mexico. What was it like?
Um, I noticed probably again because it was in the middle of the week. I think we talked about in the last episode, like that's why it's bleeding over into November. So it's still Halloween down here in Mexico.
Right.
So we just went to this really cool experience called Hotel Dracula. And it's actually just a few blocks from us in one of these old there's a lot of like historical buildings here. This one looks a lot like the building in the background of our YouTube if people are watching, and it looks a lot, it gives me Haunted Mansion vibes also. And this is there year round. So for Halloween they did a thing and it's going on through I think November 5th. And so we went on the November 2nd. So Halloween was over, but there it is, still in the Halloween spirit. And then Dia de los Muertos is coming up. So I was supposed to go on Halloween night, but I'm actually going to go instead on this Wednesday on my birthday. We're going to do a little birthday evening at Dia de los Muertos
That's
Park.
right.
So I'm excited for that. But do you want to hear a little bit about Hotel Dracula?
Please. Yes, I'm very eager to hear about this personally, and I want to, have our podcast listeners hear all about it too.
I was very impressed, I gotta say. So this was a 4 hour long experience. It was I did not anticipate this, but it was undoubtedly inspired by Disney, by Haunted Mansion, and then also by the Francis Ford Coppola's version of Bram Stoker's Dracula movie of the 90s. It's like all of that mixed in. And I was like, 4 hours? What are we gonna do for 4 hours? I thought we would like maybe leave halfway, like if it was just a party or something. And no, it was the whole 4 hours. So you go in, and then there's this
Wow.
whole garden. It looks a lot like the front of Haunted Mansion. So there's this whole garden of just like really pretty whimsical lighting. There wasn't anything scary at this point. It reminded me a lot of Villain's Grove, this part. And so you'd walk through
Okay.
it,
Very
and then
pretty.
you'd get to a like big stone arch where they were using this really cool projection lighting fog. It looked a lot like what they kept saying we were going to get on Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Do you remember like when they first announced the ride like 100 years ago, they kept talking about this light, this new light
Yeah.
effect. And it was like, okay, really? It's just like Sonic Laser Jam with fog or whatever. Um, but I saw it here at this place, and I think this is what it's supposed to look like on the ride. But when we rode it last, it did not look that cool. This was like swirling. I couldn't tell what was fog, what was projection, what was light, and it just looked like you're getting put into this giant tunnel. It was really cool, and you had to walk through it. And then on the top there were the live actors started. and you saw a version of Dracula, like the kind of I guess like gentlemanly one with the glasses when he has like a goatee and he's not creepy looking.
Okay.
And they were like welcoming us, it was all in Spanish, but I understood most of it because it was basic things like bienvenido and da 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 da. And so then you'd go through and then you were put into this was outside this part. It was this entire themed dinner party setting. And we had a table in the front, which is nice, and then a full-on like Broadway stage. Again, mind you, this was all outside in like behind this really cool mansion. And it was the entire Dracula opera musical that they did, like the full-on story while we were eating. And the acting
Wow.
was really impressive. The singing was okay. It's not my style. It's like opera. So it was like a lot of times it was like real dramatic and it was supposed to be,
Yeah.
but it was in Spanish. So it was okay because most operas are in Italian. So I felt like, okay, I don't need to know what they're saying anyways with opera. And I already know the story of Dracula many times. So I knew what was happening. But here's the cool part. Every course and every beverage went with what was happening in the musical.
Ooh, okay. That's
Yeah.
really cool, actually.
So there was this one part where like the three women vampires came out and they're like, oh, it was real spooky. And then the coffin in which Dracula sleeps in. And then the servers come, like banquet style. They all come out at the same time. Like on the Disney cruise or weddings through round tables. And then they pass these it looked like a coffin. I think it was made of rye bread, perhaps, and it had a cross on it. It was really spooky, and it had like grass around it. And I didn't know what the waiter was saying, but luckily the neighbor told me, "Oh, wait for the crema. There's something coming." So okay, because I was ready to eat. I was hungry,
Oh.
and it was one of those pour over soups. So when all they were talking about this la sangre, like all the blood on the stage, we're talking about blood, then they poured over the soup onto your bowl. And then
Ooh.
it was so delicious. It was like some sort of like tomato soup. The thing in the middle that was a coffin was kind of giving like grilled cheese. It just tasted so good, and I was very impressed. Then you got a matching cocktail that went with that course as well, that looked like a giant goblet of maybe carbonated blood. And I would say it was maybe like a grapefruit seltzer or something like that. And then, there was the show goes on and this next course, oh my gosh, they were like eating a baby. I don't know if you remember that in the Dracula movie or the story
I
where
don't.
the three vampires, they want to suck on Jonathan's blood, like the main character. And Count Dracula's like, no, 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 don't do it. That he's mine. And so he brings them a fresh baby to like distract them. And it was pretty gory. Like it was a doll, but it was able to pull apart with like organs and stuff.
Yeah.
And then on our plate, we had a rack of ribs, just slathered in
Oh,
barbecue sauce
no.
and like a corn. They grilled the corn in a way that looked like a rib, which I think I've seen at the new Country
Oh, yeah,
Bear
they're called
Jamboree
corn
barbecue.
ribs.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like that. I was so, again, I was just like, what? This is crazy. Like they went there and I loved it. And then it went so and so on. And then dessert was really cool. It looked like a thick white candle and it was lit and like it had melted. So it was like halfway down candle and it was this delicious like vanilla coffee liqueur cake with frosting on the outside. And that was toward the end when they were all storming his castle to get him. So yeah, that was really cool on its own, right? So that was the dinner experience, which is what I thought we purchased. I thought it was just going to be a dinner musical, and it was so much more. So that was the second part only. And then after that was done, they ushered you through like this outdoor corridor with different giant paintings of the different versions of Dracula, including like Nosferatu. Ooh. But they were all, you could tell they were like graffiti artists that did it. It was really nice. And you walk through, and then suddenly you're in Bar Transylvania. So this is still outside. There's a live stage band playing music. There's fire throwers, fire eaters. more drinks being passed around. And we're like, okay, what do we do now? Like, I don't know. Like, were we supposed to be in costume? Like, some people showed up to that in costume. But it turns out it was just like a fun pre-show waiting area before you got to go into the actual house. And so we thought we were
Pre-show.
already
It sounds like you
done.
already had the
Yeah,
show. Oh my
totally.
gosh.
So this was like now the pre-show for the walkthrough in the house. And we didn't even know any of that was going to happen. We were like kind of ready to leave, and we're like, wait, no, I think there's more. So we would have missed like the second major part if we had left. So we watched the pre-show for a little bit, and then we saw they were calling people into the house. And so they're in the middle of this like backyard party. There was a looked like a little mausoleum, you know, like the one that the Phantom is in and Haunted Mansion in the cemetery
Uh-huh.
scene. It was like that.
Right?
So it looked unassuming, and then we realized, oh, that's the entrance. And so they had like this long tunnel to get back toward the house. So we go through that, and that part was scary. They made you go through like a pine tree maze that was got narrower and narrower. So it's like scratching you, and there were some vampires popping out.
Ooh.
And then we went into the front of this mansion, which looked exactly like Haunted Mansion. It even had a carriage out front, except this was giving more like Cinderella carriage, like a circle ball thing. And then they put us
Okay.
all there. And I like that they did stuff in groups. I know when we go to like Universal and things, we get annoyed about that they rush you through.
Yeah.
So they only took like maybe 15 of us, and then this whole scene played out in the front yard where this lady was on the roof and she was talking to the scary like Igor type dude who was our host with holding a little lantern and like scaring people and telling us the story of the mansion. And so all that was happening. And then we go into the actual house. So to me, that was yet another pre-show, it felt like. And then we went into the actual house, and the house is, as I said earlier, really a historical building. So you could tell and you could feel it. And I was already impressed just being able to go inside this building because we've walked by it a lot. And so we go inside, and then it becomes sort of like a combination of Sleep No More, but there was a what is it called? A linear narrative. Like you couldn't go on your own. But it felt like that because they
Okay.
would go into one room and they would take our group, and then a scene would play out with actors that are in there. Scary vampires. They had like Lucy from the story, like turning into a vampire. And then we got into this one room and we got to talk to Dracula, and he was like, they would do that thing like they would come up to you and like smell your neck and all that. And so it was really cool. There's like different scenes in the house. And then they brought us to this attic, which is a real attic in the place, full of candles and this giant coffin. And this is where I got impressed with their special effects again. So it was just rows and rows of white beds, almost looked like hospital beds, like
Like an
just
infirmary or something?
infirmary. Uh-huh. And there was maybe like 15 of them, like maybe seven on each side or something. And they had the vampire ladies walking around and like, you know, being creepy. And then all of a sudden, like the scene started and they were like screaming and trying to summon Count Dracula, and then the bed started just like bleeding, like just blood everywhere. And so I was looking around operations. There's projectors. Each bed had its own projector, so that the
Oh,
white
wow.
linen can do whatever it needs to do.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
So at this point it was what, like musical maze, projection mapping, lighting effects, a really cool the costumes were like full on like Victorian dresses and things like that. But it all culminated, ended in the attic where they chose one person, and they brought her up and Dracula came and bit her neck, but she was kind of into it. Like she was kind of like, you know, that little feeling. Um, but it wasn't the sexy Dracula that we met earlier. It was that scary old one with the buns. Ooh, real creepy. And then they all gave us a glass of red wine to drink, and it was like we're all now participating and drinking the blood. And there was just so much thought into it. So that's how it ended. And then they escort us out of the house, and then you could either go back to the little party thing or leave. So we left. At that point, it was already 4 hours. But there was a whole other story that I didn't realize until it was over that okay, so we bought VIP tickets. You know, I love a VIP. That meant we didn't have to wait as long in the line and we got better seats for the musical. But it turns out everyone with the VIP wristband was actually being selected by Dracula's vampire spawn because he wanted our blood specifically because we were, you know, like the upper class of that Transylvania. We were the ones that got fed and given drinks throughout the musical. And so they like tricked us to make it seem like, oh, it's time for the VIP tour where you get to go upstairs to the attic, which only VIPs went to. I didn't know that until later. And so
Oh,
like
that's very nice.
there was this whole triple layer of the guest itself. We were tricked to go to this Halloween event only for the real Dracula, who's still alive in 2024, to bring us up to his attic and then drink our blood. Oh, wow. It was just so,
Ha ha ha.
so well thought out. I was very happy about it.
Wait, so the
Yeah.
VIP package included dinner and nobody else got food?
Yeah. It was really confusing, especially because the tickets were in Spanish. So it sounds like, from what we are trying to put together, operations mode, it sounds like you could buy a ticket for just the walkthrough of the house,
Oh,
or
okay.
you could buy the ticket that comes with the musical and the walkthrough. And that was the VIP one. So everyone who was watching the musical was fed and given these cool cocktails and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were all considered VIP. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I was just like, okay, Mexico, Guadalajara, doing it up. And I should have known
Right?
Guadalajara is like a theatrical city. It's an artist community, makers community. So you could see it. Like these people, this was their night. I mean, obviously they do it every night, but they were getting so into it. And the same actors who played the characters in the musical were the same ones that they had to then move into the house to continue those scenes over there. I was like, oh my God, that's the real Renfield from the stage. Ooh, and then I said it. I was like, "Hey, Renfield," and he grabbed my hand and like walked me into one of the sets in the haunted house thing. And then Jerry just kept walking, and I was like, "Oh my God, he's putting me in this like mausoleum thing. Nobody cares." It's pretty scary, but yeah, it was really good. And I think it was what I needed to like get that Halloween kiss for the Halloween
Good.
season. Yeah,
That's awesome.
so yeah, I was again very impressed. And it's interesting to check out things in other countries and see how they do it in other cities, even
Yeah,
if
I was
even
really
if you're just in the
curious to
US.
hear
Yeah.
how it all felt out. Did you said they don't do this just one night. Do they do it year round or is it only for Halloween season?
This looked like it was maybe a 5 week run. It was like beginning of
Okay.
October through this first week of November. And it must be really
Okay.
popular that they
That's
they
that's
have a
good.
whole week after Halloween. Yeah. And people were still showing up
Yeah,
in
yeah.
costumes for that live band part. So yeah,
That's very cool.
good stuff.
Wow. That's awesome. I'm glad you had fun. That sounds awesome. I would love to go.
Dracula.
Maybe I'll have to time my visit to come down in Halloween
Yeah,
spooky
and that
time.
there's tons of
Woo!
things. Like this is just the one that grabbed my attention through a good targeted ad, I think with Fever. But there were so many things. So yeah, definitely next year got to see what else they offer down here.
That's fun. Awesome. Well, I had already shared some of my Halloween activities on here, but I want to share how actual Halloween went and actually a couple specific places I wanted to talk about real quick that we visited. So this year, friend of the show, Danny, she's been on here a few times. Her and I wanted to focus on maker houses, like home people building haunted houses in their homes that you could walk through and those kind of really cool things to do locally. So we found out that there's a whole trove of them. Like we didn't even get to go to all of them because a lot of them do all this work for like 2 months or 3 months or sometimes even longer, and then they're only open for one night sometimes.
Wow, that's
Tough.
weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a lot of them that were like really big were like 2 nights only. But
I don't
so it's a
like
little rough
that.
to like,
Why did they do that?
yeah, and then it's like dusk until like 10 p.m. because it's in a community, right? It's like in a
Yeah.
neighborhood. You can't really make a lot of noise late at night. So
Ooh.
So yeah, it's a very limited time to squish everything in to do. So we didn't get to do all of the things, which makes it more fun for next year. So that's fine. Excuse me. However, I wanted to share, I got to go to Disneyland really close to Halloween. I actually flew home on Halloween and I had nothing to do Halloween night and I was pretty bummed out. And then friend of the show, Christina, who had built the haunted house at her house, we had her on a couple episodes ago. She called me just to talk, found out I wasn't doing anything and invited me to go to a wedding on Halloween night. Isn't that
Ooh,
crazy? Like,
Hallow
and
wedding.
it was this mutual friend of ours. She's very close with them. I am not. They're like acquaintances to me. Um, but nonetheless, it was their wedding, and I was so excited to go. We went to this neighborhood in San Jose or Campbell, which is just south of San Jose, and I could not believe the amount of trick-or-treaters that were out here. Like it was insane. My neighborhood, it's like hardly anybody comes around. There, it was like the movies where you see like just
Oh,
kids running on the sidewalks
wow.
everywhere, like crowded, like lines or like houses had lines waiting to
That's
get candy.
fun.
Like it was so fun. It was very cute. And it was like cold, but not like raining or too cold. It was like it felt like fall. It just like the perfect Halloween night. I really, really enjoyed it. Excuse me. And we got to bring Christina's little one London trick-or-treating. So that was a lot of fun too to get to like see him um running up and collecting candy. It was very cute.
Oh my gosh, she's
But
already
yeah, we went to this
running and
wedding.
walking.
Yeah, oh
That's
yeah, for sure.
crazy.
2.5 years old now. I
Wow.
know. So we went to this wedding and it was they had rented out the street in front of their house and then like put all these candles in the middle of the street and that's where the ceremony happened and they go hard for Halloween. Like their house is
Wow.
super decorated and it was just really pretty. They had asked, which I loved, they asked everyone to turn off their phones and just enjoy the wedding and not like record every piece of it. And it was actually quite nice to like sit there and just enjoy something without phones all in the air. So that was really pretty. Um, I'm not sure about his wife because I think I've met her maybe once. Um, but he's an artist, like a really, really cool artist
Oh, I
and
thought you were gonna
builder.
say
And so
you weren't sure about her. Like, ooh, why did he marry her?
no, 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 not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But his style was like really seen translated into his own wedding and it was just like really well done. Like it wasn't your typical wedding at all. They had like a flash mob jump in and do Thriller in the middle of the wedding. Like it was just like it was super fun and also really pretty and dark and like Halloween night, right? It started like 8:30 p.m. at nighttime. It was beautiful. So
Wow.
congratulations to them. And then after that, Christina had found out about this person in the same area that really does up there. They don't have like a walk-through haunted house, but they have a yard, right? Like they do all this crazy stuff in. So we went over to check that out since it's on the way home. And wow, I was super blown away. This place was called the DC Cemetery. If any of you live here in the Bay Area, want to check it out next year. He's been doing it for a long time. Um, and I kept looking around and I just saw Haunted Mansion written all over this person's front yard. Like it was just everywhere. Like he actually had like a hitchhiking ghost animatronic, so that was like
Oh,
very
wow.
much Haunted Mansion. He had the a coffin with the lid opening and the arm coming up to open the lid.
Oh, wow.
He had ghosts popping up from behind the tombstones. It was set up like a graveyard in the yard. Um,
What's the
I just had so
DC?
many. Sorry.
What's the DC? I thought this was going to be maybe like Americana Halloween.
Uh,
So not like Washington, DC.
I think it is something to do with his initials.
Oh,
Let me
Dickens
see here if I
Charles
can.
reverse. By the way, while you're looking that up, did you know my sister was married on Halloween? That's their wedding
No, I
anniversary. Yeah,
didn't.
10/31. They didn't have like a themed wedding. They did what I did. They like went to the courthouse, but he did propose to her the previous Halloween when they came to trick or treat, not trick or treat, when they came to hang out in New York City for Halloween.
Aw.
Yeah. which is
I
nice
love
because
that. I
now
did not know.
both of us, there's only two siblings in our family. My sister and I, we both have wedding anniversaries on holidays. Mine's Christmas Eve and hers is Halloween. It's very Nightmare Before
That is very
Christmas,
cute.
clashes of the holidays. And easy to remember, can never forget.
Yes, that too, very much so. Um, I can't find out why it's called DC, but DC Props is, I'm assuming, his company.
Oh,
I haven't looked
okay.
too into it yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find them on Instagram under DC Props. If you want to look them up and see like the kind of work he does, it's all on there. And then DC Cemetery on Instagram to see some of the work they've done at their house.
Neat.
Um, so yeah, I'm not sure how that came about, but nonetheless, a very nice gentleman was standing out. I could tell you in the house. So I went over and talked to him. I was like, "So are you a Mansion fan?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." Like he just looked at me like, "You get it, right?" Like one of those moments. It was very cool. So obviously a Disney holic is a haunter as well, and got to find one out in the wild, which is really fun. Super impressed. The lighting that was going on in that area and the spookiness like meter was like really high, just really well done and very pretty for someone's front yard. Like it's just, I don't know. It's so interesting to see how far people can go in such a like quote unquote for me boring space. A front yard is like whatever, but then it was all of a sudden this whole like Halloween exhibition. You know what I mean? It was just like really, really, really cool. Um, and then so that was our night. We went one more place, which I'm going to wrap up this part with, but I want to talk about some of the other haunts I did this year. So I already obviously talked a lot about Christina's haunted house that she had on the podcast. I got to go through that. It was very well done as well. Would not expect any less coming from Christina. There was this beautiful witch's room that had like a cauldron, and the witch was sweeping, and she would kind of hit you at your feet, which would spook you out and push you through the next room. Um,
The
there was
sweepers, the
tons,
Disneyland sweepers trying to tell us to get out.
yeah,
The park
just
is closed.
sweepers. That would be fun. That would be a great Halloween costume, like a zombie Disney sweeper that just like keeps spooking you with their broom all the time. Seems
Get
like a thing that
out.
I've had done in multiple haunted houses. Yep. Um, and then there was a few other areas while you're walking through it. Lots of scare actors, which was like tons of jump scares from all these kids that worked on the haunted house. So they get to like work in this thing they created. It's so fun. I really liked the bridge they built. That was it was the weirdest feeling. I think she said she put it on like like a mattress or something. So it felt like you're walking over like a what are those bridges? Like a suspension bridge or
Oh
something, but
yeah.
it was just really like a rickety floor. And then she had this area with this curtain that could get pulled closed if you didn't want to be too scared. But it was open when I went through, and it was this scary animatronic wolf or yeah, I guess it would be a wolf. It looked like Gamork from Neverending Story.
Oh, I saw
It
that
was
on one of her posts, and it looked
yeah,
just like
super
Gamork
scary.
from Neverending Story, and I thought it was
Yep.
so cool. The eyes glowing in the dark cavern. Yeah, that's a good one.
It was good. Yes, in the cavern too. Like she had built these like cave walls that you would walk through, look like you're partly into a cave area too. Just super spooky and scary. So hats off to Christina. Now that I've gotten to actually experience it, it was tons of fun. We also talked a lot about Stuart's Hollows Glen on another episode. So we talked fully about that. I don't need to go recap on that one. Um, one of the house haunts I went to was called Rebel Yell. They name it that because the street is called Rebel Way, and they're probably
Oh,
fans of Rebel Yell, maybe? I don't know. Why
that's
can't I think
a
of who sings
song,
it?
right? A band.
With a rebel yell. David
Is it
something, not
Billy
Bowie, but
Billy
Billy Idol.
Idol? Billy
I was
Idol. I was
way
gonna say
off.
Billie Eilish. Whoops.
Billie
Um,
Eilish.
and then
Got it.
Rebel Yell also reminds me of there was a roller coaster at King's Dominion on the East Coast when I was little that we rode called the Rebel Yell, which I think is pretty much the same as like the Grizzly type of thing. But I
Okay.
don't think I knew until now that it was a song reference that the
Oh,
ride was. Yeah.
right. That's
So
funny. I wonder
funny.
if there's more things in the park that were like that and you didn't catch on.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. But this house, hats off to them as well. This is another one of those haunted houses where you walk through and I'm like, this is at the level of uh like Pirates of Emerson or Fear Overload or any of these big haunted houses that are done by larger corporation companies or whatever that you can go to that have the space and the budget to build these insane haunted houses. And this was just at somebody's house. It was
Oh,
crazy,
wow.
free to go through. Like, just every scene was like something super scary. And again, really good actors in there as well. So, wow. Rebel Yell, check them out as well. Then we went to the Kraken House, which this one was more of another yard display. Again, insane yard display. They had a giant pirate ship built. They were shooting cannons at us from the top of their
What?
house. Yeah, it was like smoke rings they would shoot at you. And the whole lawn had this giant, they said a life-size Kraken. So it was like, picture what that would be like to us. It was huge. It's like
Wow.
this inflatable head. And then they had these giant, like, octopus arms that stretched out across the way. And they had all these bubbles. And then the rest of the theme was like pirates. So you'd have like the pirate mixed with the Kraken, whole thing going on there. It was, again, very visual and super immersive just to even look at it. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah. Next we had the Spaic, I think it's pronounced. It's again the name of the street, Spaic Scary House. It's Spaich. These are all in San Jose area, so Santa Clara, San Jose, or Campbell. Um, and this one was very cool. So we pulled up. There was not too many people outside, so we're like, oh, we don't really know what we're gonna see here. I just randomly found it right before we went out for the night. Our expectations were very low, and they shouldn't have been because it was another knockout. It was like you walk into the
Wow.
garage. You look like you're entering this old Victorian house just by the way that they had built the theater walls. And it was super themed out. You walk through it, and again, a million different scenes, all these cool animatronics, beautiful set design, like just home run again on this new house. And my favorite part was actually right outside of the house. They walk you out to where you exit through the side of the garage. And there was like all their trash cans are there, right? It's still a working regular home. And the trash cans are there. And when you walk past the trash can, I guess it's like motion sensor, and the lid shoots up and a skeleton jumps out at you.
Ooh.
It's like a tail end, long lasting scare for you right there. um, And then this is a thing that we actually did the day after Halloween. It's called the Boo Crew, and they do this insanely elaborate, like, they I can't understand the layout of the, like, where the footprint is of these haunted houses because it's at a house, right? It's on a street, but it was huge, and they like rent out the block for Halloween and the day after. All the communities involved, like the firemen help build it, I guess.
Oh,
They like use their cranes, their like bucket things to like get up and like build parts of the haunted house out. So everyone's involved in this. And this is probably the biggest one in San Jose that you can find as far as a home haunt goes. Not like, I think Stewart's would be the biggest for the walkthrough ones. Um, as far as at someone's house, this one is called the Boo Crew. They do a different theme every year. This theme was called Pumpkinville, and felt like Frontierland. Like, Danny was with us and she could not stop saying, like, oh my God, this is making me so sad. I need to go to Disneyland. She's getting like Disneyland withdrawals real bad from being at this haunted house. Out in front, they had built an entire steam train that was like working. Like, it had like the steam coming out of it. They had numerous like train cars attached. Very Western, old Western style design to all of it. They had wagons, they had food trucks. Like, they just had like all this stuff outside that you could do and be entertained with while you're waiting in line. And by the way, the line was like an hour and 20 minutes, I think, to get into it. It wrapped
wow.
down and around an entire block. Like, it was insane. But we did it because we're signing up for it, right? This is the big one. We got to check it out. Only open Halloween and the day after, so you don't really have many options. Um, but it was just beautiful. Once you get inside, you're started with this room that is like completely full of cuckoo clocks and other types of clocks on the wall.
Ooh.
So you're just like seeing, like, okay, we're traveling back in time. This is like us transitioning into this old Western town. And it's basically a walkthrough of just that. So it's like picture like a ghost town with the ghost had come to life. So lots of
Oh,
pumpkins everywhere because it is called Pumpkinville. So this is like this mix match or mismatched, not mixed. What's the word I'm looking for? Mishmash. There it is.
Monster Mash.
Monster mash of pumpkins and Western and ghosts and all things spooky all together. Um, and again, the set design, I don't even understand. Like we kept talking about, like they have like the whole ground is like dirt, like loose dirt. Like, did they just put this on top of their lawn because it matches the theme? Like that's
A lot
insane.
to do
So
it
yeah,
to do.
it was nuts. And there's this part where you go through a couple places like horse stables, for instance. Um, and there's scare actors in there, actors you can interact with as well. And then you go around this corner, and all of a sudden you're outside and you're outdoors inside of like a town center picture of an old Western area. So like you have all the
Wow.
storefronts. They had like a bakery, a blacksmith, a is it livery or livery? I don't even know what that
I say
is.
livery, but I don't know how to pronounce it
I do
actually.
too. I don't, yeah, livery, and I don't even know what they do there. Um, and then once you go through all of that, you walk back inside, and you're now in a saloon. And to the left is the bar with the bartenders there. There's like
Oh,
a lady of the night possibly over there, like whisking you in. And then on the other side, there's all these tables of people playing poker, all themed out, like all these actors fully themed out into old Western style.
Lady of
Um,
the Night. Oh, like a brothel worker type of thing.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
like a
now I'm
madame
thinking
or
of like
something.
Westworld or something. This is sounding really
It was very
cool.
Westworld,
Yeah.
very
And I'm
Westworld.
surprised
It's
Disney doesn't have a spooky layover of Frontierland type of things.
right,
It just
yeah,
makes sense. Oh, wow.
it
Okay.
does make sense. Yeah, so that's essentially it. It was a walkthrough of this old Western town. I just still can't get it into my head how this was in somebody's house. Like,
Yeah.
where's the house? Um, but last and certainly not least, we went to Erie Elegance. Now, this one I went to three separate times because it was so
What?
good.
Eerie elegance.
Erie Elegance, you
Interesting.
can look that up on all these ones. Boo Crew, I also
Eleganza.
mentioned Erie Elegance, you can look at um, on Instagram or any other socials. This year they did Haunted Mansion theme. And of course, you know I'm going to be
Ooh.
there. So they called it our own Haunted Mansion with, if you're on YouTube, you can see their sign. They had created one of the plaques that says our own Haunted Mansion right on it. So it was very custom made for them. It's in this old Victorian home in, I think it's still considered San Jose, but it's like close to Santa Clara. So a little northern San Jose, I guess it would be. Um, I can't even with this place. So first you get to the house. The house is beautiful on its own. Like it's just like I said, old Victorian. They have that pointy roof in the front with all the pumpkins atop of it. Again, you can see it on YouTube here. All the little pumpkins lining the top. And then they have this beautiful staircase to get into their front door with tons of pumpkins out there. And they also added that area and that you could go up and walk up there and take photos and stuff too. So it's just like this beautiful photo op for the front of the house. But then when you get closer, you notice that the front lawn is a cemetery. And when you're walking through there, there's tons of tombstones, lots of great puns on the tombstones, of course, because how else would you do it if you had your own haunted mansion? They had a grave that was moving. It was so creepy. Like the ground was like breathing. It was
Ooh.
so like, ooh, I don't know, it was creepy. They had this giant, beautiful animatronic raven. It's like he actually looked like had real feathers and stuff, so it didn't look like, plasticky. It was like this beautiful raven with glowing red eyes. Um, and one of my favorite things, they had a haunted mansion sign in the front lawn that had, how they do those signs with the multiple different arrows that point like this way to this place, that many miles away. Then they have it on the other side that goes to a different place, like trading post, I think some people call it.
Oh.
And it was pointing to all the different haunted mansions in Disney. So like Phantom Manor and uh, Mystic Manor and Haunted Mansion Disney World, Haunted Mansion Disneyland. And they also had Winchester Mystery added on there because San Jose.
Oh.
Very cute and classy. And while you're waiting in line, you kind of walk in front of this whole display. And there is an interactive Madame Leota fortune telling booth there. And it's set up as one of those little caravan style, like gypsy style. I don't want to say that because it's a bad word now, but one of those style canopies where they had the Madame Leota ball in and you could talk with her. It was like real
Oh,
Madame
someone was in
Leota.
it?
Yeah,
That's neat.
it was Madame Leota herself.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, right? So then that's just getting ramped up for the thing, right? This isn't even the experience yet. This is just how it looks from the outside. And of course, they have the two brick pillars in the front of their home with those Haunted Mansion plaques to make you really feel like you're entering in the Haunted Mansion itself. Then someone greets you at the door and it says, "Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Haunted Mansion." Or to our own Haunted Mansion, they said, which is very nice.
Is that how they get away
And
with the like copyright or something? They keep adding
right,
our
probably
own
our own
haunted
Haunted Mansion.
mansion.
And then they walk you in to the actual walkthrough. Now, this was like through the side of the house first. And the first thing they walk you into is right into a stretching room, just like you would in the Haunted Mansion. And they had built their literal own stretching room that actually stretches. It was so cool. It's in somebody's side yard. Like, what? This is nuts. They had all the portraits, the wallpaper, everything in there. It was so legit. And then once you're through with that, they walk you into the changing portraits hallway where you get to see all those familiar faces with the lightning on the windows on the other side. They even had the Donald Duck chair. A lot of us know that we call it that down at the end of the hallway.
Which
And
they
that
got
was where
rid of
you'd
that
find the
Magic Kingdom for the hitchhiking ghost. Rude.
womp womp. Rude. But at the end of that hallway, you would have the endless hallway with the candelabra floating in it. So they created that illusion for you to see. Then you make your way walking through the corridor of doors where they even had the breathing doors and the wallpaper that is so iconic. And you walk through that to make your way into Madame Leota's seance room. And they kind of stop you in here,
Ooh.
just like they did the stretching room, and let you have a show with Leota. So she does her little spiel, and they use the actual um, uh, Leota Tomb's face and Eleanor Audley's voice. I was trying to think of everything, but the actual stuff that you
Oh.
see from the Haunted Mansion in it. Then you make your way outside, but first you're greeted by a piano player playing on the organ with all of the skulls flying out using the Pepper's Ghost effect. And this is something we saw repeated numerous times in this haunt, which is so cool because that is so Haunted Mansion, right? Like Pepper's Ghost. And they actually, you could tell that they were such real fans of the Haunted Mansion that they're like, we got to sneak in Pepper's Ghost every chance we have. So they had it in quite a few different spots, which is really neat. And outside in the graveyard, I thought that was probably going to be it. Like now we're walking outside. I have no idea. I'm so disoriented on where I'm even at anymore. And now they have their entire backyard set up as the graveyard scene from the Haunted Mansion. And they have all these lit up white ghosts that are on teeter totters, and the ghost with his head off that's in his hand, and just like a bunch of the familiar haunts that you would see in, or happy haunts that you would see in the graveyard scene in the Haunted Mansion. And they built this all on their own. Just amazing. It was such
Wow.
high quality. They also had a mausoleum there that you could walk in, and they had a quick moment for you to stop and take a photo op in that, which was really nice.
Was there
And
music?
then you, yes, of course, Haunted Mansion
Oh,
music, like
okay.
the dot, like what you would hear from the Haunted Mansion in the right areas, right? So they're playing that correctly, how you would assume it to be. And then they're the cutest part, and we found out later that this was one of the actor's daughter, and she was the little Leota at the end. She's like saying "hurry
Oh,
back," and she's dressed up like in a little bride outfit. It was so cute, so clever. I love it. Um, so yeah, so you're walking through the graveyard, great experience. And now you walk out. There's a photo prop at the very end that is, or photo op that it has a doom buggy they built, and there's a screen in the back of it that shows the hitchhiking ghost. So it looked like you can have a ghost that follows you home in the photo with you.
oh.
And the best part about this that I was not ready for, because it did not happen the first time I went, and then it happened the next time I went. You sat down and you're like smiling for your photo, and they do a jump scare where they shoot the air out at you, like under the seat. So your seat vibrates, and then the air shoots in from somewhere else.
Oh, that'll make a
So you get
good
like an
photo if they
actual
catch
scare
you.
face out
Yeah.
of you. Yeah. So good. So yeah, that was Eerie Elegance. Amazing, top-notch quality, especially for a freaking home hunt. I can't get over it. They, from what I've heard, they rotate every year between three different themes. They do Haunted Mansion, Harry Potter, and Nightmare Before Christmas. So
Oh,
next year they're going to be doing Harry Potter, and the year after that will be Nightmare Before Christmas. And if you did want to see Haunted Mansion, you just gotta wait a few years and go back. So
there you go.
yeah, San Jose is lit up on the map for haunts. I am so impressed with them. And I just wanted to mention some of the things like actually I already mentioned most of it, but like the way that these communities get together, like all of them would have like a donation thing at the end or some kind of information about how they built this haunted house and like thanks to different people and stuff. And it seems like so many aspects of the community get together to build these things together, just like Christina was doing up in Oakland. And it's just really cool to see, like, instead of it being like kind of shunned away, like the police were involved, firemen were involved, like all these different companies donated or like came and helped, and volunteers from the neighborhood. When we were at Erie Elegance last night, we were there pretty late and we were just talking by our car about it for a while. And this guy that we had recognized from working inside, he was walking by us. And I was like, please tell me you live on this block or something. He's like, yeah, all the neighbors like volunteer and stuff. I'm like, that is so cool. Um, but also wanted to mention the usage of space. Now, this is a huge thing in Disney that we see, like really smart usage of space. And these houses that I walk through, I'm like, where are we and how did we do that much in someone's backyard? Do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
some of them were even only someone's garage. Like I don't understand how it like works out. They just must know how to really use like their space properly, and it's just super super impressive. So whew.
It'd be cool
Anyway,
to see like a bird's eye view of some of those, like with the roof torn off, so you could actually see the
right,
corridors, like the map.
yeah, yeah. We actually asked which one was it, the one with the big kraken. We're like, where is the house? Because like all we see is a pirate ship. And like now we know there's two other houses, and they're like, oh, that is the house. They built the pirate ship onto the house, and like we're a mirror image of the house next door to us. And it was one of those flat rooftops, ones
Oh,
that are flat.
wow.
And so they just built the pirates that are shooting the cannonballs are standing on our roof right now. I'm like, what? It's like so crazy.
That's
Like you see
cool.
that door where the plank is, like walk the plank, that's our front door. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cool to think about. Whew. Anyway, so that's a wrap on Halloween. I'm not ready to wrap it. We'll see how it goes. Might find some other things to get into, but one other thing that I know you and I did a lot of this year was watch spooky Halloween movies, right?
Ooh, yes.
Lots of those. So I thought it'd be fun to kick off our Patreon takeover with a
Ooh.
topic that came in from Michael, and he wanted us to watch Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse short, The Mad Doctor. And he wanted us to watch this for a very specific reason. Gosh, my words tonight. Reason. And that was because this was a banned cartoon. Do you know about this?
No, not until the topic came up, but I did watch it to prep for this, so I'm excited to talk about
Awesome.
it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So The Mad Doctor was a short, part of the classic Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse shorts that were pretty early on. It was 1933. And this was banned in lots of theaters because it was deemed to be too scary for kids. Like, this is a cartoon with a cute mouse that we all know and love by this time already. And now it's like super scary. And so it got banned in lots of theaters, and banned entirely in some countries like the UK and Germany were both banning
Wow.
it entirely. They're like, nope, not in my house. So,
That's
um,
dramatic.
it is so
It's
dramatic,
a bit
right?
dramatic. It seems very like 2024 complaints when this was like almost
Right.
100 years
Yeah.
ago.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think everything that we do naturally, we just have always done.
Yeah, it
That's what
just
we're finding out,
repeats.
right?
And I'm thinking in like the 30s, a lot of those black and white cartoons, Mickey Mouse included, but just the other ones too, Betty Boop, they were all kind of weird and spooky and creepy, even when they weren't meant to be. So I am actually surprised that this one got banned like fully. Wow.
Right. I mean, even times back then, even like just regular life was spooky back then, right?
Yeah.
Like just the way, like I was talking to Christina about that. I was like, even like families would take pictures with their relatives after they passed on. Like they'd
Yeah.
prop them up and take photos of them. Like we don't do that today. That'd be so weird today. But it's just like the way people lived back then. So you're right, hearing that this, I mean, this is a little later than that era, but like to hear that they even were offended by that or whatever you want to say, is interesting.
And I think we're going to get into the story, but the ending to me makes it not scary at all, if that makes
Right.
sense, right? So we'll get there, I think.
There's a lot of Disney stories that do that, right? Like I actually think I gave a verbal cue for some, I don't remember who I was talking to about this, but I said most Disney movies start off like yay, and then it goes "Arr," and then it's like yay at the end, right? It's like has that
Well, and this
really
one in
dark
particular, I mean, I
middle
guess
part.
it's almost 100 years old, so spoilers are okay. But yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
wakes up at the end and the whole thing was a nightmare. And so I'm like, okay, why would you ban that? It was you
I
were just
know.
watching his nightmare, which is supposed to be scary. So,
Maybe
yeah,
they just hadn't done something like that yet, but they had all those
weird.
creepy movies out. The silent movie era is super dark and creepy. Like there's some
Yeah.
weird, which by the way, they have a lot of that on streaming that you could watch as old like 1901 movies and stuff, which is very cool. I watched a lot of that this Halloween as well.
Well, and the Mad
So yeah, I wanted
Doctor had some human centipede vibes to it.
tell us how.
He wanted to the Mad Doctor, who I recognize from something. I don't know if he's in the parks or video games or what, but I recognize his face. It's a round face, round nose. But he kidnaps Pluto, which is very sad, and he wants to cut Pluto in half and connect him to a chicken or a hen and turn him into a half hen, half dog, who then can lay little Pluto eggs where Pluto comes out. And I was just like, wow, that is a lot. But it was also kind of cute for as scary as it was. I was like, okay, that's kind of cute because it ended with like a little cute egg. But yeah, that was giving me human centipede vibes. And that was, again, almost 100 years ago, this was thought about.
Right, right. Yeah, that was dark. It like had an image on a chalkboard or whatever he was
Yeah.
drawing it out on, and it was like the head of Pluto. Like he straight decapitates Pluto and puts
Yeah.
him on top of this poor hen, which by the way was locked up in the lab with him, and it was so
Whoops.
sad. It was so scared.
And then at one point, the Mad Doctor, I really like this from an animation perspective. The Mad Doctor was able to saw Pluto in half, but he only did it with Pluto's shadow, not Pluto's actual living body. And I thought that was cool. And it was still a bit grim because I started thinking, well, Peter Pan's shadow is alive. So yeah, whatever he just did to Pluto's shadow was probably painful for that little entity. Yeah, as we're
Oh,
talking about it, I could see why it's a bit extreme. Still weird that it's banned, but it is, yeah, violent
right.
and gory for a cute black and white cartoon.
And that part of the shadow part, the way Pluto reacts to the shadow specifically, he gets like freaked out because he thinks he's being cut in half because he's
Yeah.
watching his shadow be cut in half. It's almost like that trick that people do with little kids where they look like they take their finger apart. Do you know what I'm talking
Oh, the
about?
thumb.
I don't, yeah, the thumb
You
when they like
scroll.
remove the thumb and the kids freak out. It's like that same feeling
I was
that
also
Pluto
thinking of
reenacts.
those ones that do these brain tests where they have a fake arm and then your real arm is out and then they hammer it and then you feel it even though it's not your real arm.
It's so
So
weird.
weird. Poor Pluto.
Poor
Oh.
Pluto. I know. I think that was the hardest part for me about this was how scared Pluto was. Like the whole movie, it
Yeah.
was so sad. Like seeing him like that, and Mickey is being a very good dog owner and just like risking everything to go get his dog back from this scary guy. And at the beginning, the Mad Doctor is like in a cloak and he looks like death or something. Like he's
Oh yeah.
portraying to look like you don't know who he is yet. He looks like death and he's dragging Pluto away like with his like by his leash and it's like just like a little aggressive. There's also a scene where when he's cutting his shadow in half, he has Pluto hanging on a hook which is like very serial killer-esque.
Yeah.
He's like hanging by like a meat hook by his tail or something. It's like, oh, that's dark and
And then
creepy.
the character design of this particular 1933 Mickey was the one with just black pupils, fully black. And I thought that added to the creepiness, even though I don't think it was intentional because they didn't know that years later his design would change to be more like cute. But that added to the creepiness was the black eyes Mickey. Ugh.
Yeah, totally. Another thing that happened, so Mickey, like I said, is trying to find Pluto to save him, and he hears Pluto freaking out about his shadow being cut, and he jumps. Wait, did he jump into it or can't remember how, but he ended up getting trapped by the mad doctor as well. And like what's the word I'm looking for? Like he got captured basically and like tied down to this gurney type thing. And then it shows a saw, like a, I don't know if it's called a buzz saw or a spinning saw or whatever. And it's coming down this giant saw. It's like it's gonna chop his body in half, and his whole body starts like deflating so that there's more room for it. It's like very cartoony. Um, and then he wakes up. So that's when he wakes up from his nightmare. And then he screams for Pluto when he wakes up in that old weird. I wonder if that's still Walt Disney doing the voice at that point. But there's that weird old, yeah, it's like kind of underwater sounding. Just like like it's weird. I don't know why to do it that way. Um, and Pluto runs in, doghouse and all. Like he was like, "What's going
Yeah.
on? I have to go save my human." And he runs in with his. It's still chained up to the chained up. He was chained up, huh? It's
Yeah, he
kind of
was
dark too,
chained to
but
his doghouse and he pulled the entire doghouse
yeah,
through Mickey's bedroom window to snuggle with Mickey. And I immediately thought about my two dogs and I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. It was just
it
such
was
a
very
sweet
cute.
ending. Yeah.
It was. It was. So yeah, another one to add to your Halloween list. I think there was plenty of horror added into this to the point where it's still cute and funny though. Like they had demons, they had death, right? A mad scientist, kind of, or mad doctor, sorry. And skeletons galore, so many skeletons. Um, and then I feel like it was also a spoof towards Frankenstein, right? Because they're now, because I think that was 1927 question mark 27 or 29. I'm getting it mixed up in
Yeah.
Mickey.
But just
I
like,
think it's
yeah, that
27.
whole era of mad scientists, mad doctors creating things that are abominations.
Yep. Yep.
Ooh.
So that was early, times where only like 5 years later or so when they were now doing this cartoon of it. But there's some really fun and cute cartoony moments within it too. For instance, there's a scene where this spider it's like a skeleton, but it's a spider skeleton. I
That
guess
was really
you
cool. I like had a moment where I was trying to think, wait, do spiders have bones? Like this is so cool. I've never seen this before, really. A skeleton
right.
spider. Yeah, it was cute.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it had like a regular human looking head on it. So I don't know. I don't know what it. Yeah, I need to now know what a skeleton spider or a spider skeleton actually looks like.
Ooh.
How have I never seen one also with spiders in houses and stuff? Ugh. Anyways, moving on. Um, the skeleton trapped in like a cage and he tickled the skeleton to get out of it. I thought that was super cute.
Cute.
So yeah, very cute moment. And I have been playing a ton of video games lately, and there were a lot of things from this cartoon that was like, oh my God, I bet you a lot of our video games got inspiration from cartoons, which for some reason I just never really thought of before. For instance, there was this scene where Mickey's running over a bridge and the bridge is dropping one brick at a time behind him. Like so many video games I played, right? Once you run over,
When
like
I saw
activates
that
it to claps.
exact scene, it reminded me viscerally of Mario, and they're like these donut shaped ones, and then you walk across
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
the
blink
little
and
like
then they
half
fall.
circle.
It looked exactly like that. It was really cool.
Yep. There was scenes where like the stairs end up flat and you have to slide back down it and you can't get to where you're going. That's happened to me in video games. Skeletons breaking and rebuilding. Many Zelda and Mario both.
And they
Like,
always make a cool sound when they do it.
yep, like bony sound, right?
Yeah.
But there was this
Bones,
one
I think,
scene.
is the name of the one that looks like a turtle in Mario.
Yep,
I think Bones, so cute.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. I was just playing a game last night with him in it. Um, but there was this one scene that reminded me of the old video game called Doom. Do you remember this on computers? I think it was like a PC game.
Yeah, it's still around. Like 10th edition,
Oh my
whatever. They
God, I
did a
can't imagine what it
movie
looks
of
like
it.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Like the old version and even like the old wallpaper on computers where you're walking through like a brick like corridor and then you turn the corner, the way like that moved, that scene that they did, I don't think I've ever really seen that before. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
In the Mad Doctor, it was kind of near the beginning when Mickey's getting into the castle. It was like this really cool shot scene. I want to look it up and see if I'm the only person that thinks it's cool or not. But something about it, it tripped me out. It was like the way it was moving, and then it like pivoted to the left, and you're like moving down another hallway, and you're seeing Mickey like walk down it as you're moving through it. But something about it looked super cool, like the animation of it. So, oh, maybe it's just me, but I thought that was a trip.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
it was they were doing the background separately and then animating Mickey on a cell. So for something in the 1930s, that's pretty technical, sophisticated, it sounds like. Yeah.
yeah, it was really neat. Um, so yeah, another great one to add to your list. Walt Disney's Mickey is the shorts names, and then it was called The Mad Doctor, and you can see it on YouTube. It is not on Disney Plus. So if you want to
Banned.
watch it, check it out. Banned.
Banned
Banned
from
from
Disney
Disney
Plus.
Plus.
But yeah, I found it on YouTube as well.
Nice. Um, and last but certainly not least, it's Mike's birthday. He already spilt the beans and the cake and the
What?
ice cream. It's Mike's birthday, so I want to wish Mike a very happy birthday. It's a little early
Woo!
for me to wish it to you now. I will be messaging you on your actual birthday, but happy birthday to you.
Thank
And I have a
you.
little 19. Oh, do I want to tell people what year you're born?
I am
1900s trivia for you.
1981 year of Fox and the Hound is my Disney
Oh, already on top of it. Okay.
Zodiac movie. And I am turning 43, 143. Yeah.
Oh, 143. Very cute. So we're going to do regular pop culture trivia. What
Ooh.
iconic action adventure movie was introduced to us in 1981?
It is non-Disney action adventure movie.
Excuse me, I
Disney
got a cough.
with people, live action.
Hmm.
Action adventure
Wait,
81.
not Disney.
Oh, not Disney.
Not Disney yet.
Indiana Jones?
Which one?
Well, you said introduced, so I'm thinking Raiders of the Lost Ark, but for some reason I thought that was a little bit older.
Nope, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, there we go.
That's it.
I didn't know that. Okay,
1981.
so I have both Fox and the Hound and Indiana Jones. Okay,
Yep,
that's
yep.
cute.
Which werewolf horror film directed by John Landis became a cult classic after its release in 1981?
I have two thoughts. I think it's an American Werewolf in London,
Okay.
and if it's not that, it's The Howling.
It was the American Werewolf in London. Good job.
Yes, perfect.
So that's what was going on in the movies. And what was going on with music? Which iconic music video channel launched on August 1st of 1981 with the first video? I'm not going to tell you because you have to do both of these now.
Oh,
So,
shoot.
which iconic music video channel launched on August 1st, 1981?
Is it MTV?
It's MTV.
I
You also have
I
MTV,
Yeah, I
Mike
did
TV.
not know that, and that is half of the origin of Mike TV, Willy Wonka, and
Right.
MTV. And if people don't know, we are Zennials, which is also known as the MTV generation, like born between like
Right.
78 and 82 or something very specific. And I cannot believe MTV was created in 1981. I'm so excited. So I have three really cool things so far. All right. And then you had a part two to that
And which
question.
was the very first music video?
What? I
Come
don't
on,
even,
everybody knows this.
I didn't even know it was like on record to be, wait, what? Okay, I'm gonna take a guess only because of the name, but I really don't think it is. Is it Video Killed the Radio Star?
Video killed the radio
Radio
star.
Star.
Yes, it
Really?
is.
Okay, that was
Yep.
just a guess. All right.
That's perfect. Um, let's see. Television. What was going on in television? What popular medical drama TV show debuted in 1981 that would go on to run for more than a decade? This is a hard level one because I don't even know what
Long,
this one
more than
is.
a decade. I think it's like 20, 30 years of General Hospital, probably, right?
Yeah, been
Is
going
it?
forever.
That's
Nope.
my guess. It's not General Hospital.
It's one I
Oh,
haven't even heard of.
1981. You say
Uh-huh.
medical drama or hospital drama?
Medical drama.
Um, no, I
So
don't
this
know.
isn't a good question. Let's skip this one because it only ran until 1987.
Oh, okay.
This is called the Hill Street Blues. Have
Oh,
you heard of
okay.
that?
I heard of it, but it was definitely before our time. Like, and it didn't
Okay.
make it into a bunch of reruns, but it sounds familiar. Yeah.
Hill Street Blues. All right, television. Who won Miss America pageant in 1981 and then went on to be the first African American to hold the title?
What? Okay, so I don't know if you or anybody know this, but Filipino culture is very much obsessed with beauty pageants, including Miss America. So if you
Oh, I
ask,
did not know that.
I have one specific cousin, Palm, aka Paul, that if I had to phone a friend and called him, he would know the answer. He knows all of it.
Love it. You
But
should call
I'm
him right
just gonna
now.
guess. Be like 1981. Who was it? Miss USA or Miss America? Those are different.
Miss America.
Miss America. Okay, I'm going to guess Maryland.
Maryland.
So
What?
I'm going to take that guess back
It's a
because
person.
it's not the answer. Oh, you are not the state? Oh, I thought you wanted to know
No.
which state won. I definitely wouldn't know. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I can't even believe this. If this is even my year, I'm gonna die. Okay, Vanessa Williams is one of my favorite people ever. Is it Vanessa Williams?
It's Vanessa Williams. Save the best for last, baby.
Oh my gosh, I love her so much. She got her crown taken away because she posed for a magazine, Playboy or one of those, and to this
Oh
day,
my
people are still
gosh.
mad that that was should not have happened. And she had
They
taken
should
those
especially flip it
photos.
around nowadays.
Yeah, she took the photos before the pageant, and even then, still, it was a mainstream magazine, so it shouldn't have been drama. And then you add like the layer of, like you mentioned, the diversity, and that was a big. It was a lot of drama at that time. I've done research on that. I used to have a poster of Vanessa Williams in my bedroom, and
Love
she
it.
is my favorite character on Ugly Betty. She plays Wilhelmina Slater, and right now, on Broadway, they just premiered The Devil Wears Prada musical, and she plays the role that Meryl Streep played in the movie, which is just perfect for her. Wow, I cannot believe that was a 1981 crown. That's
Yep.
amazing. Yeah.
Yep. You have a good year here. I'm going to ask you one last one because we were talking about video games. So, which video game featuring a plumber and a gorilla was released in 1981 and became the most popular arcade game ever? Or one of the most popular arcade games ever?
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong!
Wow, that's
Woo!
81. I actually thought that was much older for some reason.
81.
I'm okay. I'm as old as Donkey Kong. I'm as old as Fox and the Hound and Indiana Jones. I'm as old as Vanessa Williams' crown that was taken away from her.
And also, real quick, let's see what was going on over at Disney in 1981. So, like you mentioned, Fox and the Hound was the big release for 1981. Disney's acquisitions began in 1981. They were making way of getting television rights so they could put some of their classic films onto TV.
Oh,
And that's kind of what started the expansion from there, including rolling up into the Disney Channel at some point later. Not too much later, but
wow.
Walt Disney Imagineering was working on Tokyo Disneyland and Epcot
Oh,
Center,
how exciting.
right? Um, Walt Wed Enterprises turned their name into Walt Disney Imagineering. So they went from
Oh,
WED to
wow.
WDI in 1981. And then let's see, plans for new theme parks. In 1981, Disney was deep into planning for Epcot Center, set to open the following year, and Tokyo Disneyland, marking Disney's first major international expansion. Epcot was designed as a utopian vision of the future. Blah, blah, blah. We already know that part.
Wow.
Come on.
So
Speaking of
if
Disneyholics here.
my mom was running a podcast that year, a Disneyholics podcast, I'd be in the womb and she'd have pretty good stories. They'd be talking about Epcot and all the rumors and opinions.
Yeah.
Tokyo. Wow. The new Imagineering. That's pretty cool. All right.
Right?
All right. Okay,
Solid,
81.
solid birth here. Gotta give it to you there.
Thank you. That was fun. I actually didn't know like 75% of those things.
Very cool. Well, today's episode, we wrapped up Halloween, even though we probably haven't completely wrapped up with me around. But we talked about all the fun things we did during the Halloween season. And we also covered a Patreon topic of Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse short, The Mad Doctor. And of course, happy birthday, Mike.
Yay, feliz cumpleaños to me. Thank you so much. Well, I hope you all enjoyed listening to episode 214 of the Disney Holic Show.
Follow us on social media at the Disneyholics.
And if you want to get in touch, send us a DM on Instagram or contact us at thedisneyholics.com.
Okay,
Okay, bye.
bye.